Welcome to AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. Educate. Celebrate. Connect. Arizona Hispanic Connection.
Buenos dias. When I was asked to speak, I was very proud to be asked because I love coming to the Legion. The Legion is our second home for many of us, and Commander Jesse always welcomes us, as well as each and every commander that you see in the pictures on the wall and some of the past commanders who are here. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Legion history because that is part of the leadership of the Hispanic community. But before I do, today is a day of mourning set aside for President George H.W. Bush, who died this last week and was buried today with national honors. I don't know if any of you were seeing the ceremony, but it was a beautiful ceremony. And there were, I believe, 5 living presidents. I won't say too much about it. Everybody was there. And it was very, very moving. And I thought about George Bush, and I wanted to share a couple of things with you. In the 80s, when he was president, toward the end of the 80s, he was a one-term president, but he did a lot to help in our community. One of the things he did is pass the Clean Air Act. And I'll never forget when I saw that, because I come from a mining town, and I know the effect that the smelter smoke had on the community, and also the conditions of the mines had on our parents and our grandparents. And the Clean Air Act cleaned up a lot of the pollution. And I'll never forget that George Bush said, we inherit the air from our parents, but we borrow it from our children. So it's our duty to keep it clean. So the Clean Air Act was tremendous, a tremendous gain for the United States of America. It is under attack right now, but hopefully in the next election and with the Congress changing, we'll go back to changing it. And it's tough. It's tough on businesses, as Gonzalo can probably tell you, but it's for the future of our children, so we must think of them. The other thing I remember him for is the Handicapped Act. I was on the city council for the city of Phoenix during that time, and I remember we had to retrofit the streets and very many of the access points that the city was in charge of. But now people in wheelchairs or who are on walkers could have access to each and every facility that the city had and be able to live a more fuller life. The last thing I want to say about the president is many of you were familiar when he said we're going to recognize 1,000 points of light. And I had always felt that that was tremendous, because what that meant is they were going to recognize nonprofits throughout the nation who did work in our community, who volunteered, who put a lot of the money they raised through nonprofit activities into the community and helped. And I had always felt that the Legion should be one of these because of the tremendous life that they have led. And let me talk a little bit about that, and then I'm going to talk about it, if that's okay. The Legion is in the heart of our community, and many of you know the history, but just let me give you a brief synopsis. What happened in World War II, many of our veterans went to World War II. Many of our young Chicano youth, my dad being one of them, Jesse's probably father being one of them, many people in this post had relatives who were part of World War II. And when they came back, there were a couple of men in our community, Iba Fuentes and Tony Sosa, and many more who came back and wanted to join a service group, wanted to join the American Legion. Well, they went to the post on Grand Avenue, and at that time it was a segregated post, and they could not join. And instead of saying, okay, that's okay with us, they didn't do that. What they did is they went to Barry Goldwater on the city council, and they went to him with the help of Adam Diaz, who had been a city councilman. And Adam was not a city councilman then, but he knew very many people because he worked in the Lurs building, introduced Goldwater to the community, and Goldwater came and said, what do you need? And they said, we want to build our own post. If people reject us, we will show them that we are worthy and we are United States citizens and we fought for this country. So Goldwater went ahead and leased them the property we're on now for $1 a year for 50 years and said, this will be yours, build what you want. And the post was built. My husband, Earl Wilcox, lived across the street from Grant Park, and he remembers the post being built. I think the Ronda room was first, and then they kept adding and adding. But this post became the post that Hispanics throughout the nation would come to and be very proud, because it was a post that was forged in just a really hard time, but forged so well that it exists today, where many others have gone out of existence. So hats off to the Legionnaires, to all of the people who have been commanders, the present commander, to Iba Fuentes, to Tony Sosa, and to the spirit of Raza who came back and said, nunca más will we be put on the back seat. So let's give them a round of applause for what they did. Just one other thing, the picture you see in the back, that was a mural that was dedicated as a post stamp many years ago. And as I talk about Ed Pastor, our congressman, I remembered that when it was dedicated, Ed was here. And I remember how proud Ed, myself, the legislators, Alfredo Gutierrez, my husband Earl, Joey Lopez, we were all here. And it was a major celebration because for once the United States had recognized the worth of the Hispanic soldier and not put us segregated, but put us right in the mainstream and dedicated a United States postal stamp. And when Ed was here, Ed had been a member of the Post for 40 years. And he had grown up in the mining towns of Claypool, Arizona, which is by Miami, Superior, Globe, Hayden, Winkleman. And he had grown up in a time of very tumultuous environment. That's when the unions were forming. That's when we didn't know, a lot of us growing up in that time, whether there would be jobs for our fathers, whether we could even have hospitalization, dental, if our fathers could have the right retirement, because there was just no benefits. And the mine mill local was formed. Steel workers came in from back east, and they formed unions, and the unions were strong, but the strength of the unions was not only in their gains, not only in all of a sudden our people could be foremen, could be part of the executive part of the mining community. We could have cleaner air, we could have cleaner facilities, we could have cleaner, the OSHA requirements would be given, but we knew that by making change and by coming together, we had changed the whole culture. We had taken away the environment that gave us segregation, that gave us second-class citizenship, and we had again said, nunca más. And we changed the world. And in doing so, Ed and I were part of the group that came from the mining towns who had learned, because we were very young. Ed was probably in 8th grade in high school when all this started. I was in grammar school, but I remember Ed telling me, we can never forget what we learned growing up. So when we came down to Phoenix, all of us got involved with the Phoenicians who were already making movements, the American Legion, some of the politicians who were already here, and we started making change. And Ed, at first, went to ASU, he went to law school, he never took the bar, but he had an intense knowledge of the law by going to law school, and he became a teacher. He was a chemistry teacher, worked in Guadalupe, and then worked at North High. And he loved being a chemistry teacher, because I knew him. His wife was from Superior, and I've known it all my life. And I knew how much he loved that. But when his brother, Bob Pastor, who was a JP in the area, passed away through a terrible auto accident, Ed rededicated his life to politics and to making change. His roots came back, and he said, if my brother is no longer here, somebody in our family has to carry on the tradition of making change. He became one of the first Hispanic supervisors from Maricopa County, served 18 years, and then went on to become the first Hispanic congressman from Arizona and served 23 years in the House of Representatives. And it took a tremendous toll on him. It took him away from his family. It took him his health. suffered because he went back and forth every weekend. There was never a weekend, maybe occasionally, when Ed didn't come home because he felt he had to talk to his constituents. His constituents were top with him, and that's what he was in office for. He was in office to serve. And Ed did tremendous work. He was very low-key. He did not want any admiration. He just wanted to work. And I'll just give you one example of what he did that made him very dear to me. When Joe Arpaio came after our community, we were just besides ourselves. Joe Arpaio went above the rule of law. He tried to create the rule of law for himself. And we in this community, particularly the Hispanic elected officials and advocates, fought very hard. Lydia was right there in the door. And many of us didn't know what to do. Well, we called Ed, we went to Washington, and Ed arranged for the United States Justice Committee in the House of Representatives to have a hearing on the abuses of Joe Arpaio. And Ed did that so quietly, but there was so much respect for him that Connors, who was the head of that committee, said, "Of course I'll do it for you, Ed." We had that hearing, and that brought about the Justice Department and the downfall of Joe Arpaio. So I know my time is almost up. Just would like to tell you, when you're in this community, you look and think of the leaders. You think of Adam Diaz, first city councilman, Val Cordova, first federal judge, Earl Wilcox, state representative, David Aldama, the president of Chicanos por la Causa, and know that leadership through the example the Post has set, through what Ed did, and through many, many of our leaderships and organizations is alive and well here.
Thank you, Mary Rose. Thank you for your commitment to Maricopa County, to the city of Phoenix, to Arizona, to you and Earl for everything you do for us as Latinos. You're an icon in the community, so thank you so much. Appreciate it. It is with great pleasure I'm going to introduce a gentleman that I really honor. He is a walking encyclopedia, I call him, because he knows the history of Phoenix, the history of Mexicans in Phoenix, like the back of his hand. So I understand he needs to get going very fast, so without further ado, I'm going to introduce Frank Barrios.
Ed Pastor goes down as one of the greatest leaders in the Hispanic community, and I couldn't say enough good things. I think Mary Rose said it very well. But looking at the history of the Mexican community here in Phoenix, Phoenix began in 1868, 20 years after the war with Mexico. So it was never what you'd call a Mexican town. It started after the war. And from pioneers, there were many pioneers who started Phoenix to where it was a small town to where it grew today. It's one of the largest cities in the United States. And Phoenix grew on the shoulders of those pioneers. And I think most people don't realize those shoulders, those pioneers were Mexicanos. 50, very close to when Phoenix got started, 50% of the population of Phoenix was Mexican-American here. And sure, there were those that dug ditches, worked in agriculture, but there were also great leaders. People that were respected, had a high priority in what happened in Phoenix. People like Jose Otero, probably the richest man in Phoenix. Miguel Peralta had a business here in Phoenix and ran for Maricopa County Treasurer, lost, but he ran. And Enrique Garfias, the town marshal. If you read the exploits of Wyatt Earp, it's like reading what Enrique Garfias did. He was elected 5 times Marshal of Phoenix. Then in the late 1800s, the railroad came in and things began to change. The Mexicano went from being half the population of Phoenix to a minority because the railroad brought in Southerners, Easterners. Everybody could now come to Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona, and they started passing anti-Mexican laws. One of the things was La Liga Protectora by Pedro de la Lama to protect Mexican rights and ownerships because of the laws that were being passed, anti-Hispanic laws from new people that were coming in. So they lived through that. But through all of that, I think it's important to remember the Hispanic community survived, grew, and continued to contribute to this great city. One of the things Mary Rose touched on, and all you have to do is look around you and see the contribution in World War II. But one of the things you don't hear a lot about is the contribution that the Mexicano made in World War I. There were a lot of Mexicanos here in Phoenix that volunteered, went and fought in World War I and died in World War I. There was a large number of them, and unfortunately nobody has sat down and identified who those people were and what they gave to this country, to Phoenix. And one of them was my cousin, Dave Martinez. And David used to always talk that he came back with injuries from inhaling poison gas in World War I. And he carried that with him till the day he died. And of course, I don't think there's anybody left alive from World War I. But it's nonetheless, we've got, just looking around here, you see all the, and rightfully so, the contribution that the Mexicano made in World War II. But very few people remember. I bet you folks out there have grandparents or great-grandparents who fought in World War I. And they made huge contributions, and continue. If there ever, God forbid, a World War III, you know who's going to be out there, the Mexicano from Phoenix. And we continue to provide support, and we honor them for what they've done and for the work that was completed. And with that, I was given a little short time, so I don't want to expand on it, but whatever you hear, or very little has ever been written about the history of the Mexican people of Phoenix, and believe me, this city would not be what it is without the foundation provided by the Mexican community and Los Mexicanos. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Frank. Frank has also been very active, a member of LULAC, a lifelong member of LULAC, and we appreciate your service and commitment to our community, Frank. Now, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the contributions in labor. Latinos, Hispanics have contributed a big role in the labor movement here in Arizona. And to talk to us a little bit more, about this is Associate Professor at ASU West Campus and author. Please help me welcome Doctora Gloria Cuadras. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. I want to thank LULAC and AARP for this opportunity to announce our newly published work, Mexican Workers and the Making of Arizona. Here it is. It's published out of the University of Arizona Press, and we're very proud of the fact that it is the first book focusing on Mexican workers in Arizona. I want to acknowledge my colega, Luis Plasencia, who could not be here. He was a faculty member at ASU West in Social and Behavioral Sciences. He is now in Texas, and much of his work is focused on migrants and citizenship. But I also wanted you to know that he has also looked at non-citizens in the military, specifically Latinos, and those who are undocumented, and how they have served in our military. So if any of you are interested in that topic, Luis Plasencia is definitely the person to go to. And he is with us in spirit and sends his kindest regards. I too am at the West Campus. I'm a sociologist and oral historian, and I've been, for the past 10 years, I've been working with the Litchfield Park Historical Society, documenting the stories and the lives of the Mexican families who worked and lived for the company that became Goodyear Farms. And so in the course of doing that work, we completed over 50 videotaped oral histories. We put together photographic exhibits of video, voices from the camps. We worked with high school students to do some of that work. And the work continues. And because we are at the VFW, and I have to say I'm very honored to be here. My 3 uncles served in World War II. One of my cousins was very involved in the VFW in Pomona, so I'm especially honored to be in this space. But if you go to Litchfield Park, I want you to know that there is a World War II memorial there. And of the names that are carved into that stone wall, I want you to know that half of those names are Spanish surnames. So if you have a chance to go to Litchfield Park, please do so. But what motivated us to initiate this project? I was doing my work, Luis was doing his work, and we began to have conversations and to look at the secondary and archival sources about Arizona. And that's when we noticed that there was a gap. And that you could not go to a scholarly book in the way that you can for California and Texas and learn about the history and the contributions that workers have made to the wealth of this state. So we called together some contributors and asked them to submit their work. The coverage encompasses the period from the 1860s to 2017. The late Arturo Rosales, which I'm sure many of you know Arturo's work, writes about the settlement of the Mexican community in the Salt River Valley. Chris Marin addresses the struggles of Mexican miners in Miami against wage inequality and the dual wage system. To provide a context for my work, I wrote a chapter on the development of the cotton industry and the recruitment of over 70,000 workers to launch an industry that prevailed for much of the 20th century. And in the course of that, I have to say, I discovered, and sometimes these things happen, right? I discovered that my father was sponsored by the Arizona Cotton Growers Association. In 1921, at the age of 15, he came here with his mother. And so, so the discoveries continue and become personal sometimes. Jean Reynolds, who works as a cultural affairs coordinator for the city of Chandler, contributed her work on Mexican American women and their participation in the workforce during the 40s and 50s. And then Luis Plasencia provides a detailed discussion of how Arizona elected officials and business leaders have sustained a close to century-long call for the recruitment of Mexican labor to meet alleged labor shortages in agricultural and non-agricultural industries. And Ana Ochoa O'Leary, who is currently the chair at Mexican American Studies at U of A, examines the 1980s Morenci copper miners' strike and the mujeres who mobilized against Phelps Dodge. And finally, Cristina Gallardo Sanidad examined the labor rights violations of construction workers in the current period. So we hope this book will increase our general understanding of the economic dynamics that integrated Mexican immigrant and Mexican American workers in making Arizona the important national and regional state that it is. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you, Dr. Cuadras, for the contributions that you and your team are doing for our society. So we really appreciate it and looking forward to reading that book. Thank you. We have an organization that has been around for 89 years and doing great accomplishments for the community itself. It is an honor for me to present and also part of this program, thanks to LULAC and AARP, we're putting together this event today. But it is an honor for me to bring Richard Estrada. Richard is the State Director for Arizona for LULAC. And LULAC, as you know, has done great work, not only here in Arizona, but around the nation. So with that, let's welcome Richard.
Hi, thank you very much, you guys. American Legion, how you doing? Richard Estrada, Arizona State Director, and Arizona LULAC National Board Member. I have a past State Director in the room here, John Morales, if you could stand up. John Morales right now is our current LULAC National Chaplain. So Reverend Morales, thank you very much for being there as our chaplain. We appreciate that with the work that we do in LULAC. So ladies and gentlemen, a brief synopsis of what LULAC is. It's an acronym, LULAC is. It's an acronym for Latin United League of American Citizens. And we were formed in Texas, and we were formed by the gentleman that you see on the walls, and by some women also. And we were formed because we weren't given proper rights that every other American should be given the rights of, and that was mainly to own homes, to own land. And so we fought for it, and we were given that opportunity, and now, of course, we know we do own homes, but we are still fighting the fight. We're looking at 90 years later, and real quick, I talk to people, and they tell me, you know, man, 90 years, you guys have been around a long time. And I thought about it, I'm like, 90 years, and we still can't solve all the problems that we should have solved about 90 years ago, right? Which we know is to be human, right? To be human to each other, to be kind to each other, and to show love. And I'll tell you about what love and humanity is when I talk about the men and women from American Legion. So right now we have the color guard walk in, and if you saw the color guard walk in, these gentlemen, I'm going to be very nice to them, but I'm a realist, so I'm also going to be very blunt. These gentlemen are 70, maybe 80-year-old men. And they came in and gave a presentation to honor the flags. And that presentation, it's such a minor, small thing, right? You think about it, what's the big deal about them walking out here and walking in the formation that they walked in and doing what they did? But it's those small details, you guys. It's those tiny little details that keep America, that keep the goodness of what we want America to be, what it is. Even though we have problems, even though we have hard times, even though we have hate and we have evil, we still have goodness and we still have greatness. And it's shown by men and women, and it's shown by our servicemen and our servicewomen from the work that they do. So those tiny details, believe me, those tiny details are what kept them alive when they were at war. Those tiny details are what keep them to help their family here. Because you know, they go through life, and there's problems. We have economic problems, we have social problems, and yet they still have the knowledge to do those tiny little details that make everything right, those tiny details that keep us pushing forward to do the right things and to do the good things. And so I am very proud to be here and very honored as LULAC State Director and LULAC National Board Member to be a part of this presentation. And if I could just have all the LULACers who are in the room, if they could stand up. And just to let you guys know, so LULACers we're from many ways of life. We come from education, we come from private, we come from business, we come from military. We are your brothers, we're your sisters, we're your aunts, we're your uncles. LULAC is everywhere, we're very quiet about it. One of the projects that we do, we've done for quite a long time, is the Head Start program. The Head Start program, if you guys know, it has this seal at every single Head Start building, because we're still recognized by the federal government who took it over by giving us the seal, but we really don't want them to put LULAC on there, and we don't want them recognized because of the work that gentlemen like the men and women of the American Legion do every single day, which is good, kind, beautiful work. And I thank the men and women who have given their lives to provide the opportunity for me to stand here and just give this 5-minute speech. So where we are with LULAC, we're here and we're strong. We do a lot of things. So one of the programs that we have, of course, is Head Start. But just to let you guys know another thing, we did a lawsuit against the federal government and against Maricopa County, and that was regarding the census coming up in pages 21 through 24 in the census. And we did that lawsuit in June 11th, 2017. We won the lawsuit July 7th, I want to say, 2018, a few months ago. We won the lawsuit against the federal government, but we lost against Maricopa County. So it'll still be that'll still be in Maricopa County. The census pages will still be here for Maricopa County, but it won't be in the rest of the United States. So we are still fighting the fight. Of course, we will still try and fight it here in Maricopa County, but just to let you know, that's just some of the projects we do at LULAC. And my father was a Vietnam veteran, and he was actually an ASU student, from Nogales, and had a full ride to come to ASU, came here to school, didn't tell his family, enlisted, and became an army armory. He was an armory division, so he was an armory man. So it's very proud and very honored for me to be here and to do this right now. And like I say, I'm an Army COI where I do Army recruiting to make sure that the Army recruits the correct people who want to be a soldier. And in that work, I think we commend and we thank the military for their work, and especially for the dire need that we have around the world right now. And it seems to me we've always had these needs. So we're always still fighting, we're always still luchando, and that's what we do as Mexicanos. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Richard. Richard mentioned a little bit about the contributions that LULAC has done about, how it started with helping folks buy homes. That's part of economic empowerment. We talk about political empowerment, and then there's economic empowerment. Not only buying homes, Latinos, Hispanics, we buy homes. We are great consumers, but we also are great business folks. And to talk to us a little bit about that, please help me welcome Gonzalo de la Melena. He's the president and CEO of the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Welcome.
Buenas tardes. Thank you, David and Alex and Lydia for putting this program together, and Commander Jesse for housing us here, Mary Rose for your great leadership, Frank for your historic perspective, Dr. Cuadras for your interesting book. Look forward to getting a copy of that and reading it, and Richard for your leadership with the service, men and women in LULAC. My name is Gonzalo de la Melena. I have the pleasure to serve as the Executive Director for the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and a little bit about growth and contribution, or the role and contribution of Latinos in Arizona. I'm going to give you just a couple of 2-3 data points, a couple of 2-3 observations, and then really focus on one call to action. We've talked about growth. We're sitting in Maricopa County, the 5th largest Hispanic population in the U.S., over 1.3 million. We've now represent a third of the state, 42% of the city, and 51% of K through 12. Third of the state, 42% of the city, and 51% of K through 12. Now, that's from a consumer and a consumption standpoint, and the buying power is significant, over $50 billion in our state. I'm going to make another point as it relates to the business community. Arizona, unlike Texas or Chicago or Florida, is not a big business state. 98% of all jobs in our state are created by small businesses. And with that kind of background and context, of the 500,000 small business owners in our state, 125,000 of them are Latino owned, growing at a rate 3 to 4 times faster. So I already told you a third, 42%, 51% K through 12 are Latinos on the consumer side, and now we're driving the supply chain. And so you've got these two large burgeoning trends, mega trends, right here in our backyard that are shaping the future of our county, our city, our county, and our state. That's the good news. Doctora Cuadras used the word gap, and I'm going to tell you what the gap is. The gap is that our share of voice and our share of wealth does not equal our share of market. Let me say that again. Our share of wealth and our share of voice does not equal our share of market. So it behooves us as individuals, leaders, organizations, to a couple of things. One, get civically engaged. And by the fact that you all are here, and there's probably a high efficacy of engagement and votership, but you need to get your cousins, your tios, your nephews, your sobrinos, your grandkids. If we are going to be reflective of the community and leadership, we've got to get our share of voice to equal our share of market. The other thing is we have to continue to invest in education so our young folks can compete in the global economy. The economy has totally changed from what it was when my abuelo was coming up and spent 30 years in the copper mine and sacrificed, so I could be the first one. Actually, I take that back. I tied for first place. My mom and I both went back to college at the same time and graduated together. For education, I would submit that entrepreneurship is a key to a lot of Latino business success. There's an interesting global study that was done that measures the affinity or the index of entrepreneurship. It was an X and a Y quadrant, and they measure all of the countries in the world for entrepreneurship. And the far outlier, the top right corner of the country that had the highest propensity for entrepreneurship, take a guess, Mexico. And so civic engagement, entrepreneurship, I would submit for you all is part of our path to success. And thank you, AARP, for having us. And we look forward to being part of the solution. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Gonzalo. I had the privilege of being with Gonzalo on the board of directors of the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And I always thought of Gonzalo as a very strategic, a visionary. We're very lucky to have Gonzalo in a key position at the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. He has taken the chamber to top levels like we've never seen. So thank you, Gonzalo, for your leadership and your guidance. We're not, and definitely not short of leaders here in our state. There's an entity that produces them and produces them on a yearly basis. A good number of alumni of this entity now occupy leadership positions in Phoenix. To share more about it, please help me welcome Valle del Sol's Chief Operating Officer, Carmen Heredia de la Torre.
Thank you. And before I talk about Valle del Sol and the Hispanic Leadership Institute, I have to also acknowledge Congressman Ed Pastor. Mary Rose's tribute was phenomenal, and I just want to mention that among his many achievements, he served as the president and CEO of Valle del Sol in the 80s. And so he's the epitome of homegrown leadership. When we discuss leadership, we can think of him. And frankly, the organization wouldn't be what it is today if it weren't for Ed Pastor. So, we're here to talk about Latino leadership, so thank you to AARP and LULAC for inviting us to talk. So, yes, one of the programs that we have is the Hispanic Leadership Institute. At Valle del Sol, we also provide health care. I'm in that area of our organization, but when talking about the Hispanic Leadership Institute, I want you to know that it was founded in 1987. And now, 3 decades later, it's 1,700 alumni deep throughout the state. We're present in Yuma, in Tucson. We have multiple programs here in the Valley, and Pinal, and East, West, Central, all kinds of programs. And so it's a rite of passage for many people. Are there any alumni here in the room? David, me, I'm in 2008, thank you. We, could think of a number of people that have been through the program. We've got folks that have served in the military, Congressman Gallego, several members of the Carvajal family. We have Mike Montiel from Globe and Tomas Robles. We have 30 elected officials throughout the state that have passed through HLI, and this includes folks like Arizona State Representative Diego Espinosa, State Senator Martin Quesada, and newly elected Representative Diego Espinosa. Lorenzo Sierra. So, at the state, we have leadership. At the local level and city councils, we have leadership. The entire city council of the city of Globe has been through the program. We have 17 school board members, Latino school board members in 15 districts across the state. I saw Corina Chavez Madruga in the back, so she is an alumni. So Out of this alumni group, 400 alumni serve on 280 boards throughout the state. These are great opportunities for Latinos to have a voice at the table, to create change, to make an impact, to be a role model for other young people looking to make a change as well. So HLI is a program that's 18 or 10 weeks long, depending on the community that it's in, and it's a professional development opportunity. We expose participants to speakers from a variety of areas to get a well-rounded perspective and become civically engaged and informed. So it's for an up-and-coming group of Latinos that is looking for professional development, and it's a great training program that I really recommend. If you need more information, I'll be around. So the future of leadership in Arizona, it's going to be Latino. It is Latino. We have all of this groundwork done. We stand on the shoulders of giants, as we've been hearing today. And so thank you again for having us at today's luncheon.
So much, Carmen, and I also, I saw Gonzalo also raise his hand, and I'll tell you what, I've known a few folks that are graduates of the program. Amazing work, and for those interested, I believe that you're still taking applications for the program. So, in closing, I'd like to bring a gentleman who can give us insight of what lies ahead. We talked about the contributions, we talked about the political and economic impact, but also there's a road ahead for us. No es así. We have to work and we have to look for the future. And to talk to us a little bit more about that, please help me welcome Director of Educational Outreach and Partnerships for ASU, Marcelino Quiñones. Marcelino, Quiñones.
Buenas tardes. As we reflect on the future of Arizona, and in particular for Latinos, I think it's important to think back to some of the stories that we've heard. And I'd like to begin with a dicho that I think captures where we're going. They tried to bury us. They didn't know we were seeds. And so, as I look across the room, I want you to take the time to see how many seeds we've got in this very room. Economic development, leadership, soldiers, courage, educators. These seeds have sprung up. And in the process, I can stand before you and tell you that the state of Latinidad, the state of Latinos here in Arizona is strong. I have the privilege of working for an institution that is completely committed to the advancement and strengthening of the Latino community. And I want to do one statistic to kind of put it in perspective. In 2002, when ASU President Dr. Crow took the helm, the percentage of Latinos was 10.8%. So out of 100 folks in the room, students, 11 of those would have been Latino. Last year, the percentage of Latinos at Arizona State University was 21.7%. Now, this is in the midst of the Great Recession. This is in the midst of SB 1070. This is in the midst of some rather questionable characters in office. But the university's commitment to serve the Latino community has always been there, and it will only continue to be there. So, moving forward, what's the message? The message is this. The university believes wholeheartedly what Mr. Nelson Mandela said, which is that education is the greatest weapon to change the world. And so as I look across the room, I want to remind you all of that particular power and strength and tool that we all possess. And it doesn't matter if these folks come into our organizations, our institutions, our homes. Every conversation that we have, we should remind people that they too are a seed. A seed to grow our economy, a seed to develop into leaders, a seed to become a part of organizations that have historically, for a number of years, transformed and empowered all of us. And so I ask you to take that idea with you and continue to plant as many seeds as we all can as a community. And 100 years from now, we'll be able to point and say we were part of it. Thank you.
All right, we are almost done. I want to bring up a person that is another visionary, very strategic as well in implementing a new strategy for AARP, and it's thanks to him that we are celebrating Latino success. And he came up with the idea of the AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. Just raising your hands, have you guys heard the programs that he has on a weekly basis, the Arizona Hispanic Connection radio show? Please follow him. If you guys don't, you can follow him via Facebook on our AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection page. So please share that page with friends, with family. We need to get more people involved with that. So without further ado, let me bring in David Parra.
Thanks so much. I just want to say a few things. First of all, I've been with AARP for 15 years, and in 2011, I was promoted to basically do Hispanic outreach. And I thought about the best way to serve our community, and I thought about creating this platform. It's called AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. And we started a radio show and a Facebook page and a YouTube channel, and we're also in podcasts. And the idea is to bring in stakeholders, leaders, issue experts to literally communicate with the community. And we're on our second year, and it's just been unbelievable. And through all this, I had the pleasure of meeting so many people, learning. Actually, what led me to kind of think of this platform was traveling to Yuma, to Nogales, to Tucson with Ana Valenzuela and Phoenix, and just to see the contributions of Latinos, and basically it's not well known. Only we know it, right? So I thought of a platform to basically let the world know the contributions, who we really are, to tell our own story. So I created this platform. Let me just say a few more things. We have a radio show beginning in January. We're going to start another show. So we're going to have 2 shows per week. On Tuesdays in Spanish, Thursdays in English. Wow. You can follow us on AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. We post everything about that on the platform. And then from the shows, we went to the Luncheon Learns. We have this Luncheon Learns every quarter. So we do Luncheon Learns where we bring a good speaker. Actually, you know who our first speaker was? El Pastor. Also, we need volunteers. Think about joining us. Sometimes there's events that we have, and we would like to be in the community more. So if there's anybody, and Anita, you already a volunteer. She's amazing. Thank you. And then Lupe Solis, and then Saul Solis, and then Sandy Rivera. Thank you so much. Thank you. Help us spread the word. Help us spread the word. Because my vision is to have a platform, basically as simple as that, to have a platform, to have a voice, and to invite you to talk to our community. It's about bringing you on, so when I ask you to come to the show, remember, okay? Don't say no, say yes. I want to also say and give the mic to my co-member. Are you an AARP member? So we are members of AARP, and we're members of LULAC. Cindy and I have been working together as LULAC and AARP to put these things together. So thank you so much, Cindy, and I'm sure you're going to want to say some things. Go ahead.
I just want to say a big thank you to David and AARP for your support all these months. And we're very grateful to be here and have you all a part of these events.
Thank you,
Very educational
Right.
and uplifting.
Looking forward to 2019. We call this the end of year celebration luncheon with the theme of Latino contributions, and we sure have many of them. Thank you so very much. You want me to just join the program? Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Stay tuned. Thank you.